Welcome to Overcoming Distractions. This is the place where adults, entrepreneurs, and busy professionals who might be a little distracted grab knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement to get focused, overcome obstacles, and thrive in business and in life. If you are an adult with ADHD, you are in the right place. But don't worry, because all types of brains are welcome. If you feel distracted at times and want the tools to achieve more in life, thrive in business, and learn a little bit more about yourself, come on in. Each week, a new expert in the field of performance, productivity, focus, and being true to yourself shares their knowledge and tips. And of course, adult ADHD. You'll always walk away with action items you can use. Ready for another engaging expert discussion? Here's your host, author of the best-selling book, Overcoming Distractions, Dave Greenwood.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Overcoming Distractions. It's Dave, and once again, thanks for hanging out with us. This discussion revolves around the topic of mindfulness. And before you jump off and say, forget that, I don't want to learn how to meditate, I encourage you to hang in there for a few, because I really think you're going to get a ton of value out of this conversation. I have a great discussion with Giovanni Dienstmannis, and he runs Live and Dare, and he teaches meditation. Yes, he does. But he also really has a great way of breaking down how becoming calm can really help us in life. And he talks about a number of things in our discussion. He talks about our monkey mind. And again, I'll say it, if you have ADHD or not, we all have that monkey mind sometimes. But he talks about how we can calm that down. And then he breaks down some of the pillars. We talk about what calm is. We talk about what being centered is. And we talk about what being focused is. And while they all work together, they all have different meanings. And Giovanni really had a incredible way of breaking this down. We also talk about the types of meditation that might help people, because not everybody can sit there for 20 minutes or a half hour still. We recognize that. And we talk about how to tame the bully inside our head. It's a fascinating discussion that we have. So, like I said, I encourage you to hang in there. Giovanni has a very calming nature about him, and you're really going to dig this podcast. So, once again, if you like what you hear, hop on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating, tell other people what you think about the podcast. That only helps people decide whether they want to download more. So I would greatly appreciate that as well. And if you want to learn more about me and the book, hit overcomingdistractions.com. So let's go talk to Giovanni. All right, everybody, welcome back to Overcoming Distractions. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to talk about mindfulness and calming down and chilling out just a little bit. And as I've mentioned in many podcasts over the past few months, we're living in this COVID-19 era, and a lot of us really need some hope in our lives and a way to just escape. And I have with me Giovanni Dienstmannis, who is a meditation trainer and coach and author, and he reached out to me, and it's the perfect time to talk about this. So welcome, Giovanni.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah. So do me a favor, if you will. Just take a minute or so and introduce yourself and your practice, your business, your organization. Tell everybody exactly what you do.
Sure. So I am a meditation teacher, author, and coach. I help people go from anxiety and stress to calm, centered, and focused through the power of meditation and self-discipline. So these are the two core tools that I teach, meditation and self-discipline. And I've been meditating for the past 20 years. I've done my 10,000 hours and counting. And I've taught meditation to over 10,000 people, both face-to-face and online through my programs. And I'm really passionate about this because I realized early on that our life is a reflection of our mind. And so if we can master our mind, we can master our life. So I'm really passionate about teaching this. I know it makes a big difference. And I reach out to you because, as a kid, as a teenager, I think I had ADHD, and I was never diagnosed as ADHD. And at that time, it was not even that known. This concept was not that popular, that widespread. But I think I had ADHD. I had trouble focusing. I was very restless, and meditation was super helpful for me. The first time that I meditated, I felt so different, so at peace, and I felt, okay, this is something I need to do every day in my life. So I'm really excited to be speaking with you and your audience.
Yeah. So is that kind of the reason that you really got started personally, was because you couldn't focus? You just had kind of thoughts all over the place?
Well, I think that was one of the elements. The other element is that I had a natural interest in anything that is mystical and esoteric. So I had that interest as a teenager, and I started reading books. And then one day there was a workshop in my city in Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. And I decided to join, and it felt really, really good. And so that's why I continued.
Wow. So I have to say, you're in Sydney, Australia. We are recording this 14 hours apart. So I'm early in the morning, and you're ending your day. So thank you for doing that. But interesting. How did you get to Australia?
How did I get to Australia?
Yeah.
So it's a big story, but to shorten it, I married a Japanese Iranian woman, and we met in Japan. We got married, and then we moved to Brazil, and life there didn't work out for her. A bit of a culture shock and not much opportunities for growth. So we said, like, okay, let's try life in a first world country. And so we had US, UK, Canada, and Australia. And we don't like cold weather, so Canada and UK are out of the picture. And Australia, it's easier to become a resident and later a citizen. So we decided for Australia.
Wow. Oh, that's great. Yeah. As many people know, I'm outside of Boston, and I was born here, and I hate cold weather. So. and I hate it every season. So maybe someday I'm gonna do what you did and just pack up. So anywho, and the hustle and bustle here is, can get to be so. Let's talk about, because, and quite frankly, some people might not like this term, but I know it's a term that's been through the ages, is what we call monkey mind. And anybody listening to this who does have ADHD, maybe they call themselves distracted or unfocused or, lacking attention. But I think monkey mind does kind of describe some of our days. And again, you don't have to have ADHD to have that kind of monkey mind that you're all over the place. But tell everybody what monkey mind actually is. Maybe some of us relate, maybe some of us don't. But what is monkey mind?
Right. So monkey mind is something that everyone who has not been deeply trained in meditation has a monkey mind. We were born with a monkey mind. If you can think of a monkey jumping from branch to branch, monkey mind is an expression that many meditation masters, they use. And sometimes they take it to the next level. They say that mind is like a drunken monkey beaten by a scorpion. So that's maybe the ADHD mind. It's not only jumping from branch to branch, it's restlessly doing so. And obviously this monkey mind, which is the natural tendency of our mind to jump from branch to branch, to jump from thought to thought, to object, and feeling to feeling. This mind is not a happy mind. It's not a focused mind. And so with this mind, it's difficult to feel content and peaceful in your daily life. And it's difficult to fulfill your dreams and actualize yourself and meet your goals, because the energy is scattered. The energy is all over the place. Now, with the help of meditation, we can little by little train the mind to hold on to a single thing at the same time, at a time. And so this ability then translates to being more calm, centered, and focused in our daily life. We're not going to become thought-free, right? That we are not going to meditate and have a thought-free mind, but we can become a little bit less of a restless monkey mind and more of a monk mind, which is more centered, more content within oneself. So that is the promise, that is the invitation of meditation, from going to monkey mind to monk mind.
I know the ADHD brain, and there's always a debate about whether ADHD is real or not, and there's no debate there for people who actually experience it, but our brains are almost trained at birth, like you say, to be scattered, and I think one of the things is that the ADHD brain is curious. So how do we, and we can, obviously we're going to get into a little deeper in this, but how do we continue to nurture our curiosity while trying to stay focused at certain points, to quite frankly be productive? I mean, if we're at work and our mind is all over the place, maybe that's not such a good thing, but sometimes curiosity is a good thing, correct?
Yeah, it builds, creativity comes from curiosity, right? So I love this question because one of the key concepts that I have come across and further developed in my personal development journey is the idea of balancing opposing virtues. So every single virtue casts shadow. And unless we balance it with the opposing virtue, we're going to be in trouble. So curiosity, in the sense of the love for learning, the wanting to know, that is a virtue, right? That is a quality. But if you don't balance this quality with the opposing quality, which is your capacity to focus and remain centered on one thing, then you're going to be in trouble, right? And at the same time, the opposite is true. If you can just focus, you can focus really well, but you're not a curious person, then there's something missing, right? So whatever qualities we have, they are both our superpowers and they are our greatest weaknesses. So if you think of a person who is naturally energetic, full of life, that's a superpower, that's a quality. But that quality casts a shadow, and that shadow is, okay, I'm impatient. I cannot persevere. I expect things to happen very quickly, and that's not the way things happen. So ADHD is both a superpower in the sense of curiosity and ability to process many things at the same time. And it can also be very challenging and limiting if you are unable to manage that energy and to focus it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us, the curiosity is, in the professional setting, an idea factory, which is huge. I mean, I interviewed 2 ADHD coaches back a few months ago, and they embarked on a project, a world without ADHD, or what would a world without ADHD look like? Because we think there's so many inventions and innovations in the world that have come from the ADHD brain. But the idea is one thing, getting in a flow or focus to actually be able to execute that and complete that, I would think is a whole nother skill that what you teach might help somebody, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're working in a team, then perhaps you can be the ADHD person who connects the dots and sees everything. And then another person will be the implementation person. So you can have another person to do that has that particular skill. But in your daily life, you need to be both people. You need to be able to have that curiosity, and you need to be able to go deep. You need to be able to go wide and deep at different times. If you want to be healthier and exercise or change the way you eat, or if you want to do something every day that is helpful for you, such as meditation, you will need that other quality of self-discipline, of sticking with something past the point where it's no longer interesting.
Yeah. we debate also in the ADHD world, at least some do, hyper-focus versus flow. And I actually never thought they were different until somebody pointed it out to me that I think there actually are differences. There are things that we can get pulled into that we cannot pull ourselves out of. I mean, a great example is kids in video games, or maybe even adults in video games. Okay. But then there's things where you've just set up the right environment to be able to get what you need to get done. So, and once again, I'm guessing what you teach people and coach people through helps them get into kind of a flow, those tools. Yeah.
So it's about, we can have that monkey brain that enjoys exploring different branches, but we will always need the ability to stick with one branch in one area of our life or another. And there is a lot of depth that comes with that. There is a peace of mind that comes with that. It's a whole new world that can open up to yourself when you are able to stay focused on one thing.
Yeah, right. And the least of which comes frustration of somebody getting to the end of the day and realizing they've done nothing. So, which I'll plead guilty to doing. So, so there's 3 areas that you mention. They're right on your website as well. And I'd love to just kind of go through these 3 briefly, because I think they're, as you mentioned, kind of the 3 components. And the first one is calm. So, and, I think a lot of people relate meditation to being calm, relaxing, calming down, but you've got other components. But I'd love to just kind of break down in your words, what calm really does mean to somebody.
Right. Yeah. So calm is the first of 3, which is calm, centered, and focused. These, in my opinion, are the top benefits that people want nowadays from meditation. So calm, if you think of a lake, and the lake, there are a lot of ripples in the lake. Now, if you stop agitating that lake, if you don't throw anything in, and if there's no wind, those ripples will eventually stop and subside. And whatever debris there is in the water will again subside, and the water will be very clear, and it will be very still. And when the water is still and clear, you can look inside and you can see everything. So our mind is like that. If we give ourselves 10 minutes a day, maybe 20 over time, to not agitate the mind, to just say, okay, during those 20 minutes, I'm just going to remain focused on one thing, and I'm not going to agitate my mind. I'm going to let things settle. Then we experience this state of calm, which is a state where you feel there's nothing missing. You're just happy to be in your own skin. You are happy in the present moment. There's nothing for you to run after, nothing for you to run away from. You're just content. You are present. And with this sense of being present and being calm, there is a sense of being in control. So if you think about a situation where you are in an argument with your significant other. If you are calm, then you are in control, and you can decide how to respond to certain things, and you can prevent yourself from saying things that you will later regret.
Right.
And you can answer to the present moment more appropriately because you are in control. And all of that comes from being calm.
Yeah. Unless you have a need to be right all the time, which I think a lot of us have, but don't always recognize. My wife always says, you like to always get the last word. And I'm like, it's not always that way. So
that plays a role as well.
So, and she's going to listen to this and go, yep, exactly. So, I mean, that's a great description. Talk to us about what being centered means, because obviously I think everything works together, as you say, but there's calm and there's centered. So tell me a little bit about being centered.
Right. So the sense of being centered is you are kind of sinking into yourself rather than being scattered. The opposite of centered is scattered. Rather than being scattered, you are kind of like you have a center, you have a pillar that you can rely on inside yourself. And when you have that pillar, when you have that center, then the way you show up in your daily life has a different quality. There is a sense of control. There is a sense of a confidence. You are sure about yourself, right? And negative thoughts can come and negative memories can come. But at the same time, you're not so much shaken because you have a center.
Yeah.
Right? So the image is like that of a mountain. The weather may change, there may be strong winds, but the mountain is there, unshakable.
Yeah.
Right? So that is what can be developed as your center.
I used to have this friend, we called him Dr. Bob. I used to own a restaurant outside of Boston, and it was Dr. Bob. And Dr. Bob was not only a psychologist, but he also did sports massage. So he kind of had two parts of his practice. But my wife, we got to know him really well. But my wife and I always said that, there are few people you meet that really are extremely comfortable with who they are, not in an arrogant way. They just know who they are. They know why they're here. They exude confidence. They're warm. They're friendly. And they appear to be centered. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah. So being centered has to do with having a strong sense of identity, that you know who you are, you know what you stand for. You live with integrity with what you know is true, right? So when you're centered, also you can set boundaries in your relationships. You are less afraid, you are less anxious because you are comfortable within yourself.
Is being centered a set of rules? Would you go that far as to say that, or is it?
I would say that it's more like an experience.
Yeah.
It's an experience of kind of sitting within yourself and as you go deep in meditation, and here's where words sometimes fail. They may sound kind of mystical or fuzzy, but as you start going deeper in meditation, you become aware of a part of yourself that is not affected by anything that is happening around you. Right? Deep inside yourself, there is a part of you, a part of your awareness that is not moved by anything.
Yeah.
And when you become aware of that and you start to kind of stay longer in that space, then you notice that you are centered, you are less moved. People may think bad of you or say bad things about you, and those things don't matter as much as they used to do.
Yeah.
It's like you being in a dream where you know you're dreaming. Right? So if you are dreaming and you know you're dreaming and something goes really bad inside the dream, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know your center, you know who you are.
Yeah. It sounds like a great place to be. So, all right, let's tackle focus, because that's a big word here on this podcast. This is focus. So talk to me about how what you teach can help people in business and in life, and just life in general.
Sure. So meditation is an exercise of focus, and the simplest and most well-known form of meditation, which is watching your breath. So what you do is you set out with an intention that I'm going to pay attention to my breath, right? And then 10 seconds later, or maybe 2 seconds later, if you have ADHD, you notice that your attention is not on the breath anymore. Right? You forgot what you were supposed to be doing. And when you notice that, you bring your attention back to your breath. Right? So that is the muscle of focus or concentration. And every time you sit to meditate, you exercise this muscle multiple times. And as you develop a daily practice and you continue with it for a while, you may notice that, okay, instead of getting distracted 350 times in 10 minutes, I get distracted 150 times. And, that's already big progress. And that will show in your daily life. So the ability to focus is the ability to remain with one thing. It could be an idea that you are thinking. It could be a project in your daily life. It could be a New Year's resolution, right? It could be your breath during the meditation practice. Whatever it is, the ability to focus is the ability to stay with one thing, and knowing that there will be distractions, that there will be forces inside yourself that will push you away or pull you away from that object of focus. It could be self-doubt, it could be curiosity, it could be fear, it could be boredom. Something will want to go to another branch. But then the ability to focus is to say to yourself, no, for these 5 minutes, or for these 20 minutes, or for the duration of this project, I'm only going to do this thing. Right? And there's a tremendous power that comes with being able to say that to yourself. That is focus.
Oh, and I think there's also tremendous satisfaction, because I think, and I'll bring it into the ADHD world for a minute, is that I think a lot of people have, 10 things they need to get done during the day. Let's take somebody in business with ADHD. They got 10 things that need to be done. They haven't totally put the systems in place. So they've got Post-its, and they've got, I had to put this on my desk to remind me. And so there's a lack of focus, because there's also a lack of systems in place. So when you do coach somebody, are those some of the things that you might discuss to kind of help maybe those other areas to make sure that what you are teaching them is effective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's the external work and there's the internal work. The external work is changing your environment, your relationships, kind of tweaking these things outside yourself that will help you to be more focused. Yeah. The internal work is meditation and self-discipline, changing your mindset, practicing certain exercises, certain virtues, developing yourself internally. And you need to do these two things. You cannot rely only on the internal work, because that is really tough. That takes time. You need to have a strong willpower. It's difficult. Yeah. You cannot rely only on the external work and the environment, right? You may have the cleanest, most zen desk in the world, and you may have the best productivity system and the best to-do list app. But still, if you don't have the ability to stay focused and to say no to distractions, these things are not enough. And you're always going to be pushed in an environment here and there in other areas of your life where you don't have the help of these things, that you just it needs to come from yourself as well. So these two areas are important.
Yeah. and you mentioned something that it took me a long time to figure out, but something that I think I've gotten a little better at is saying no to certain things that just can throw your life or other areas into a tailspin. So and I'm going to do a podcast on that as well, because I think it's hard for some people. You commit to something, you commit to volunteering for a project, or you commit to this or that, and then you realize that you've really taken your eye off the ball. You get frustrated, you get angry.
It's a big challenge, especially nowadays that we have so much information available, so many sources of entertainment and fun, and so many shiny objects, right? Yeah. But in a way, the ability to say no is the ability to focus. If you cannot say no, you cannot focus. Yeah. Because when you're focusing, you're saying yes to one thing and no to 1,000 different things. Yeah. And I think the challenge is the ADHD person feels like I cannot say no. It's like it's so limiting. I cannot do this forever. And the way that you get started is realizing that it's not forever. No, you're just your nature is your nature, but you need to develop the ability to say, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm just going to sit and write. And for the next 30 minutes, anything that is not writing is no. Yeah. But just for 30 minutes. Yeah. After that, I can go back to my ADHD brain and go everywhere. Yeah. And then again, for more 30 minutes, that's the Pomodoro technique. For these 30 minutes, I'm just going to do this. And so when you limit that focus period to a certain time, okay, it's just this, just this 10 minutes meditation, just this 30 minutes work sprint. Then it becomes easier, more achievable.
Yeah. Do you think what you just described, where, all right, I told myself I'm going to write for 30 minutes, or I'm going to do this project for 30 minutes. I'm not going to look at my email. I'm not going to look at my notifications. Do you think that just staying focused for 30 minutes on one thing is a form of meditation?
Well, it's definitely training the same muscle, the muscle of focus.
Yeah.
There's more to meditation than just focus. There's also the element of relaxation and awareness and stillness.
Yeah.
But focus is one of the big things. And yeah, I would say that there's so many opportunities in your daily life to practice focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into giving some people some tools that are listening to this. So when you begin working with somebody that might have a little trouble with that monkey mind, or maybe they have a little trouble just sitting still, how do you get started with somebody? And what tips do you give people just to kind of just get started?
Right. So everyone that I teach meditation, I take them through a framework called the 3 pillars of meditation. Everything that I've learned in these 20 years, I've put into those 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars is habit, technique, and transformation. So habit is pillar number 1. And that means developing that daily practice. Practicing every day, 7 days a week, no matter what. And that itself is an exercise of focus. That itself is an exercise of self-discipline. And that's a big focus in my programs and in my teachings. The quick tips that I can give right now for your listeners is, first, start really small. Right? Start really small. You don't need to meditate for 20 minutes in the beginning. Start with 3 minutes. Just sit for 3 minutes and count your breaths. When you breathe in, you count in your mind 10. You breathe out, you count 10. Then you breathe in again, you count the number 9. Breathe out 9, all the way to 1, from 10 to 1. When you get to 1, start again from 10. And if you get lost, start again from 10. Mm-hmm. And just do this for 3 minutes. So start with 3 minutes, do it every day. And after 1 week, you increase 1 minute. And you keep increasing 1 minute per week until you get to 20 minutes. So start really small and increase gradually. That's my first tip. My second tip for creating a habit for beginners is the concept of never zero. Never zero is the commitment that you make to yourself that, okay, this is really important for me. Meditation has many benefits that I need. So from this day onward, I will never have a 0 day, which means that no matter how tired I am, no matter how busy I am, I can always take at least 3 minutes. That's like the minimum practice. I can always take 3 minutes and do it. Even if I'm already at the stage in my life where I'm meditating 20 minutes every day. But if one day I feel like skipping, don't skip. Just do 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And keep that chain going. Right? And then the third tip I would say for building a habit is choose an anchor habit. Choose something that you're already doing every day and then attach meditation to that. So if every morning you wake up, have a cup of coffee and brush your teeth, so say to yourself that after brushing my teeth, I will meditate. You may put a Post-it note on the mirror saying meditate. So when you brush your teeth and you're seeing it, you remember it, you go do it, and then it's done. Right? So these 3 tips. Number 1, start small, 3 minutes a day, and grow 1 minute a week, very gradually. Then start do an anchor habit, attach it to an anchor habit, and then do the never zero commitment. If you do these 3 things, you are already off to a good start, I would say. There are 9 different principles that I teach in my meditation course, but if you only follow these 3, you are most likely going to continue your meditation practice and experience the benefits. So that's the pillar number 1.
Yeah, I like the concept of the anchor habit, and I think there's, I think in James Clear, his book Atomic Habits, he mentions that as well. That attach something to something else, which I think is so simple, but we forget to do it. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's you lay that out very easily for people to just get started. So. What other types of meditation can somebody do if they just, you hear of walking meditation? Like, for example, I mean, I love to, there's a lake up near my house. It's probably a good 40-minute walk around the entire lake. But, I mean, that really, it relaxes my brain. And if I've got a lot of things going on, I got to tell you, by the time I get back to my starting point, those 40 minutes, I've either sorted something out or I've come up with a new idea or I've just kind of gotten it a little clear. But are there other types of meditation that you recommend to people?
Sure. So this question naturally brings me to the second pillar, which is technique. And technique means you find the ideal technique for you. And most meditation teachers out there, they teach 1, 2, or maximum 3 techniques. But there are actually hundreds of meditation techniques, and it's important to find the one that works for you. For me personally, I do not like the breathing meditation. Now, it's super popular, and many people love it, but for me, it's not what works really well. For me, what works well is mantra. So I use mantra in my meditation. And the thing is, you will never know what works well for you unless you try different techniques over time with some support, right? With some, in some system, not willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And so the second pillar is about experimenting different styles of meditation until you find what works for you. And walking meditation is one of the styles of meditation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, kind of last question, something I want to tackle that I think a lot of people listening to this that have ADHD struggle with is maybe that inner bully. And maybe that's a strong word, but I think a lot of people with ADHD, and I've said it numerous times on this podcast, where we grow up in certain circumstances, and we carry those negative thoughts, that internal bully, the shame with us as we get older. Many of us didn't do well in school, so we're always getting yelled at for our bad report cards and all that. That's an example I've used tons of times, but it's true. So how does what you teach help people kind of tame those negative voices inside your head?
Yeah, I love that question, and I love the term inner bully. It's the strongest bully because it's always with us, and we cannot run away from it. Like the Buddha used to say that the mind is always with you. Even if you try to run away, if you go into a cave, the mind is there with you. So you cannot run away from mind. So you need to learn how to deal with it, how to manage it. And that's the invitation of meditation. Now, the most important concept or shift that happens as you start to deepen your meditation practice is to understand that you are not your mind. And this is something that most people struggle with in the beginning because it sounds awkward, it sounds untrue. It's like, what do you mean I'm not my mind? And why? Who am I? What am I? Mm-hmm. But as you deepen your meditation practice, you will come to this experience sooner or later that I am not my thoughts. And then this becomes the foundation for you to transform yourself. And that's the third pillar, transformation, which is like, how do you take the skills that you're learning in meditation, the experiences you're having in meditation, how do you take that into your daily life to really transform the way you function? So if you are your thoughts, then if there are anxious thoughts, you are in trouble because you are anxiety.
Yeah.
But if you're not your thoughts and there are anxious thoughts, then you don't say to yourself, I am anxious. You say, anxiety is here. There are anxious thoughts visiting me.
Yeah.
This feels much lighter than saying, I am anxious. So this separation between yourself and your thoughts will give you an experience of freedom, because thoughts come and go. Now, there are thoughts of anxiety, thoughts of fear, thoughts of low self-worth, thoughts of shame. All of these things come and go. Before the thought of shame came up, you are already there. You are consciousness. You are already there. The thought of shame comes and stays for a while. You are there watching it. You are aware of the thought. Eventually, that thought will disappear. And when it disappears, you are still there. So you, the watcher of thoughts, is the stable element. You are always there. The thoughts come and go. You have never had one thought in your life that has stayed forever. No, it comes and goes. Even if you try to hold on to it, it will go. So thoughts are like waves in the ocean, but you are the ocean.
Yeah.
Another metaphor is that thoughts are clouds in the sky, and you are the sky. Now, whether there is a storm or it's a sunny day, the sky is the sky.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to end it and give some people some hope that what you teach actually does work. So going back to that monkey mind, it's like, I can't sit down for 5 minutes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I'm guilty of it sometimes as well. So thank you. This has been a great discussion. I've covered meditation and mindfulness and other forms, but you've really laid this out in simple terms for people. And I think you can relate to a lot of people in the audience. So thank you so much for that. Tell everybody how they can find you. I know you also offer some tools and courses on your website. So talk about that for a second.
Sure. So the best way to find me is to go to liveandthere.com. And the best way for people to get started is to join the Limitless Life program. It's a month-by-month membership. They will have access to meditation courses, the videos, guided meditations, and a forum of other like-minded people. So, and those who want deeper support, then they can hire me for coaching. Otherwise, the Limitless Life program is the easiest way for them to get started.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for your time, sir. And I said, I know we're in completely different time zones, so I'm starting my day and you're hopefully ending your day. So thank you so much for your time and expertise.
Thank you, Dave. My pleasure.
All right.
That's a wrap, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and hanging out to the end of the podcast. I hope you've been able to take away something from our expert guest that you can implement in your life and your business. And I value each and every one of you. If you like what you hear in the podcast, you like the experts that I have every week on the podcast, I'd love for you to hop on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform and tell us what you think. Give me a positive review. It helps reach more people. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to overcomingdistractions.com. There you can find all the past podcast episodes. You can find a copy of the book where you can get a link to Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So until next time, thank you so much.